I am the lingering spirit he seeks to deliver to peace night and day. He is the monk I yearn to be with night and day. The devout one, he willingly descended from his sacred altar for me. And I, for him, willingly embrace the cycle of reincarnation. Today marks the 7th day since my death. I was the sole princess of the Great Yen dynasty, the imperial princess Changle. Changle, meaning eternal happiness, a name bestowed with the best of intentions, yet it could not withstand a sudden, virulent illness. After my death, my spirit, for reasons unknown, did not dissipate. Instead, it drifted aimlessly through the world, a translucent wisp caught between realms. I watched myself, my face pale and lifeless, lying in a magnificent, ornate coffin, dressed in the most elaborate and exquisite robes. My poised and elegant mother wept inconsolably at the memorial altar, her heart shattered. My father, usually so valiant and wise, his eyes reddened with grief, his hands trembling as he placed, for the last time, a white jade hairpin in my hair. This hairpin, a treasured heirloom of the imperial family, was said to bestow longevity upon its wearer. It was meant to be part of my dowry. Now it would only accompany me to the grave. Unafraid of the sun, impervious to heat or cold, I wandered aimlessly within the palace walls, watching the clouds drift by, playing with the cats and dogs. 7 days had passed, after all. The imperial astronomers had chosen an auspicious time. Today my coffin would be interred. My mother had already reapplied a light layer of makeup. There were 10 princes in the palace, and consortly carried another child within her womb. She still had many battles to fight. For the sake of my elder brother, the crown prince, she could not afford to remain consumed by sorrow indefinitely. I saw Courtier Chui returning home after his duties. A man who always took great care in his appearance, he now looked haggard, his beard unkempt. I followed him as he boarded the carriage that took him out of the palace and back to his residence. Courtier Chui ate a few mouthfuls of food perfunctorily, then retreated to his study, staring blankly at a portrait. It was a painting of a lady, a portrait he had secretly painted of me 2 years ago, when we first met during the autumn hunt. Not bad for one of my potential, future imperial son-in-law candidates, I thought, nodding approvingly. He did possess a degree of sincerity. "Young master, please don't grieve so," a beautiful maidservant said softly, offering incense. If the imperial princess Changle knew from the beyond, she wouldn't bear to see you like this. Her delicate, boneless hand rested on Courtier Chui's shoulder. She was talking nonsense. Who said I wouldn't bear it? I could bear it very well. Courtier Chui sighed, closed the portrait, and instructed a servant. The beauty is gone, and the hope of becoming the imperial son-in-law is also lost. Burn it. Then, he swept the maidservant into his arms and carried her into the side chamber. Courtier Chui was always known for his literary talent and had always maintained the demeanor of a perfect gentleman in my presence. I had no idea he was so physically strong. As I stared blankly at the painting paper curling, yellowing, and burning in the brazier, the elegant and beautiful figure within consumed by flames, I finally awakened to a stark realization. Soon, no one in this world would remember the beautiful, willful, and beloved imperial princess Changle, who had enjoyed every indulgence and splendor imaginable. Dejected, I leaned against the doorframe, closing my eyes. I wished only to sleep and never awaken. But a faint, ethereal melody of Buddhist chants reached my ears. I also heard someone calling me repeatedly Imperial Princess. Imperial Princess. This voice seemed to possess a peculiar magic, drawing me, in a daze, to follow it. Passing through building after building, then through a dappled forest, I came to the solemn Imperial Princess's mausoleum. A group of monks knelt on prayer cushions, striking wooden fish and chanting Buddhist scriptures in front of my tomb, performing the rites to guide the deceased to peace. Yes, my father had specifically invited the eminent monks of the Baohua Temple to conduct the ceremony today. Among the throng of people, I saw him at first glance, the one seated in the very center. He wore a moon-white monk's robe, his features delicate and refined, his beauty unmatched. I had never seen a monk so handsome. No, I had rarely seen anyone so strikingly beautiful. During a break in the ceremony, I heard a young novice address him as Elder Huixian. So, he was the remarkably enlightened Huixian, who had entered the monastic life at the age of 10 and, by 18, had already achieved renown throughout the land. The young novice sighed. Elder Huixian, it is truly a pity that the imperial princess Chang'e passed away so young. Huixian was silent for a moment, gently turning the prayer beads in his hand, his face devoid of joy or sorrow. All things in the universe arise from causes and conditions. Where there is gathering, there is also dispersal. All is impermanent. Like a dream, like an illusion, manifested only by the mind. Life is indeed a joy, but death holds no regret. Life is indeed a joy, but death holds no regret. Sighing softly, I knew all the principles, but a bad life is better than a good. Death. Isn't it better to be with loved ones, to be able to eat all the delicacies and see all the beautiful sights of the world? I was only 17, with so much time ahead of me. As if hearing my sigh, Huishuan's gaze suddenly pierced through the crowd, sweeping directly towards where I stood. A ripple of emotion disturbed his usually calm and unwavering eyes. He raised his eyes slightly. Chang'e. Imperial Princess? Master Huixian. I floated over to him, my trembling hand reaching out to poke his cheek. You can see me? Ji duo jiali, suapa he. Bored, I watched Huixian, listening to him chant from the Amitabha Sutra to the Great Compassion Mantra, and then from the Great Compassion Mantra to the Rebirth Mantra. But it was useless. My spirit remained unchanged. A sarcastic smile touched my lips. Finished? That's it? Is there anything else? Master Huixian, I have only one small wish, to be reborn. Can't you even do that? What kind of compassionate monk was this, who couldn't even deliver a small, lingering spirit like me? How could he possibly save the world? My tone was harsh, but Huishuan's demeanor remained gentle. Amitabha. The imperial princess Chang'e bears no sins. The methods of exorcism and deliverance used for evil spirits cannot be applied. Perhaps my cultivation is insufficient. Shall we invite the abbot? I quickly shook my head, pulling at his sleeve. Not to be rude, but your abbot is quite old, isn't he? I just went past him, and I saw him dozing off on his prayer cushion. The incense candle was almost burning his beard. You should do it. At least you can see me. I looked down at the sleeve I was holding. And I can touch you. A hint of embarrassment appeared on Huishuan's face, and he nodded in agreement. And so, I watched him pore over Buddhist scriptures for 2 days, then continuously chant and experiment on me. Hundreds of lotus lanterns illuminated the mausoleum, and Huixian sat upright before me, the warm glow of the flames lighting up his face, his expression calm and solemn. His voice was clear and pure, melodious and clean. I cupped my face in my hands, waiting with anticipation. But we failed, time and time again. Huishuan's expression stiffened slightly. I did not bring many scriptures with me this time. Imperial Princess, please do not be impatient. Once the ceremony concludes tomorrow, I will return to the temple and search through the ancient texts to see if there's a solution. I nodded indifferently. Time was the one thing I had in abundance now. On the 3rd day, Huixian arrived as promised, carrying a Buddhist scripture. There was a hint of excitement in his voice. I hadn't considered it before, but Imperial Princess, you may be in a state of being earthbound. Only by resolving your attachments can you let go of your obsessions and re-enter the cycle of reincarnation. Therefore, Imperial Princess, do you have any unfulfilled wishes? Attachments? It wasn't surprising that he hadn't thought of it before. My carefree appearance didn't exactly suggest that I had anything I absolutely needed to accomplish. Besides, I had always lived a smooth and easy life. What attachments could I possibly have? I was about to shake my head when a sudden thought struck me. I said shamelessly, perhaps it's because I haven't experienced the taste of love. Could you find me a man? I mean, a male ghost to try it with. Huixian was taken aback. This. I am afraid I am unable to assist with that. Of course. These monks, besides chanting scriptures in front of Buddha statues, treated romantic love like a venomous snake. Where was he supposed to find a suitable male ghost for me? Things had reached an impasse. I was in a terrible mood. The Imperial Princess's mausoleum wasn't very entertaining, so I could only pester Huixian every day, urging him to find a way to deliver me to peace quickly. That day, just as I was about to go find Huixian, I saw him and several other monks walking out of the temple together. I quickly followed. Huixian, where are you going? The fetus in Princess Consort Ning's womb is somewhat unusual. Master suspects it is related to the feng shui of her ancestral home. He has ordered me and several elders to go and investigate. My eyes lit up. I want to go too. Huixian shook his head. The Dharma array is indiscriminate. You're a spirit. The ceremony might harm you. I muttered softly, that would be perfect. I could be free. Huishuan's tone became more serious. But you would be scattered, dissipating into the void. Then I looked him up and down. Could I hide in your pouch? When you're performing the ritual, just throw me far away. I promise I won't disturb you, and I won't get hurt. Please? Huishen still shook his head. Take me with you, please, take me with you. I tugged at his sleeve again. I was so bored being alone. I really wanted to see the world. This was how I used to wheedle my father when I wanted to sneak out of the palace to play. If my father still didn't agree, I had a secret weapon. I pouted, my eyes shining brightly as I looked up at him. Compassionate Elder Huixian, I beg you, please let me go with you? Huishuan's face tightened even more, and he pulled his sleeve away. Imperial Princess, please maintain your dignity. My request was ruthlessly rejected, leaving me pouting miserably to the side. But after taking a few steps, he suddenly changed his mind, for some unknown reason. He sighed, his eyes lowered. Imperial Princess Changle, if there are truly malevolent spirits at Princess Consort Ning's ancestral home, once the Dharma array is activated, I will not be able to attend to you. You must be careful. Princess Consort Ning's family lived on the outskirts of the city. When I arrived with Huixian and the others, we were greeted by Princess Consort Ning's younger sister, Jinglian. I had seen Jinglian in the palace before, and I had even argued with her. Today, Jinglian was clearly dressed to impress. She wore a jade-green outer robe over a pale yellow bodice, her fair skin peeking through, making her look even more charming and alluring. I whispered to myself, it's already early autumn. Isn't she afraid of catching a cold, wearing so little? Huixian glanced back at me, seemingly scolding me for being so talkative. I rolled my eyes at him. Jinglian, with her body exuding a strong fragrance of cosmetics, walked gracefully ahead, leading the group of monks to the backyard. Her jade finger, painted with bright red nail polish, pointed to a deep well in the center of the courtyard. Master Huixian, it's there. I heard from the servants that lately, at night, there are strange noises coming from the well. As soon as she finished speaking, a strange sound actually came from the well. It sounded like rapid breathing or perhaps a cold laugh. Oh my goodness. It's so scary, Jinglian cried out, quickly hiding behind Huixian. TCH, it's just the wind. What's there to be afraid of? What a show-off. I rolled my eyes again, a much bigger roll this time. I reached out to pull Huixian towards me, but I grabbed only air. Sigh, I forgot again that I'm just a ghost now. Huixian, thinking I was scared, moved to stand in front of me, shielding me, and whispered, stay away from the well. I felt a little happy. Huixian was treating me better than Jinglian. When Jinglian hid behind him earlier, I saw him subtly shift his body, creating a considerable distance between them. The princess is still more lovely. Huixian walked to the well and examined it closely. This is a soul-absorbing well. Someone has set up an array to attract evil spirits, using their soul power to nourish a fetus. However, this evil spirit is too powerful. The soul-absorbing well can barely contain her, and the karmic backlash is affecting the princess consort's pregnancy. Jinglian's face turned pale. She stammered, my sister has been without children for years. The family is anxious. We just listened to a wandering monk and tried it casually. The sound from the bottom of the well grew louder and more piercing. Now, I had to admit, it wasn't just the wind. This well was a little scary. More and more cracks appeared on the well's surface. Namo Amitba. The monks no longer hesitated. They began to sit in a circle, chanting the Dharma mantra. As their chanting grew increasingly rapid, a group of evil spirits emerged from the well, led by a bare-chested, seductive sorceress from the western regions. Seeing Huixian seated at the very front, her face instantly lit up with ecstatic joy. It was as if a starving ghost had seen a table laden with delicacies, or a seasoned lecher had seen a courtesan undressed. Her eyes flickered, and her hands formed a seal. Dust and sand swirled, obscuring everything around the well. Curious, I poked my head out of the pouch, only to be spotted by an evil spirit. He lashed out at me with a palm strike. However, the moment he touched my spirit body, his hand shattered into fragments. A golden light surged from his palm and spread throughout his entire body. A lifebound protection? The great monk actually planted a lifebound protection for you. The evil spirit was shocked, his body slowly turning to dust. I looked at Huishen. Was it him? When did he plan a life-bound protection for me? I was watching Huishen when he suddenly opened his eyes and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The sorceress from the western regions took advantage of the chaos and abducted Huishen. I quickly followed, seeing the sorceress toss Huishen onto the ground in a nearby grove. She did it as easily as tossing a sack of cloth, but my heart skipped a beat. Huishen had just been injured. The sorceress purred, "Monk from the Central Plains, make love with me, and I can spare your life." Huishen coldly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, not looking at her. The sorceress stamped her foot and blew out a puff of pink smoke, enveloping Huishen completely. Huishen continued to turn his prayer beads, lowering his eyebrows and chanting scriptures, his body emitting a faint glow. I rushed forward, but the sorceress blocked me. She raised an eyebrow. Where did this little sister come from? Following me for so long, do you also want to share? In my heart, I spat, "Tui, Tui. Who's your little sister? Don't go around claiming relatives." But aloud, I said, "I'm just a little curious." "Good sister, what are you doing?" Perhaps I had been dead too long and my brain wasn't working properly, or perhaps my cultivation was so low that she didn't need to be wary of me at all. The sorceress, while observing the movement in the mist, explained good-naturedly, "This monk from the Central Plains is a golden cicada boy, not attainable without great merit in a previous life, a rarity in 100 years. If I cultivate with him, I can be revived." Revived? My heart instantly stirred. If I could be revived, I wouldn't have to drift aimlessly like this anymore, nor would I have to wait for the unknown cycle of reincarnation. If I could be revived, I could contact my secret guards, and I could have my father and mother give me a new identity, and continue living a life of luxury and comfort. I even thought about where to build my mansion, what kind to choose, and how many children to have. I foolishly asked, "How do you cultivate?" The sorceress covered her mouth and laughed. "We're all female ghosts. I can't teach you that. Why don't you ask the girls in the brothels? Or at least buy a couple of erotic paintings to study." Oh, so it was those strange and peculiar poses from the erotic paintings. That was fine, I had several of them hidden under my pillow. In my bedchamber. They were all secretly purchased from famous artists at high prices, each one exquisitely crafted and lifelike. The sorceress nudged me with her chin. "All right, go away." She looked at Huishuan's figure with infatuation, rubbing her hands together excitedly. Rarely is he so handsome. "After I've devoured him, I can let you have a taste of the leftovers. Perhaps it can increase your cultivation a little." I stood in front of her, unmoving. The sorceress frowned impatiently. "Get lost. Don't ruin my plans." The nails on her 10 fingers grew rapidly, slashing towards my neck. The moment they touched me, the sharp claws instantly dissolved. Seeing this, the sorceress raised her hands and frantically shook the silver bells on her wrists. The ringing became increasingly urgent, and countless thoughts flashed through my mind. Resentful, sad, angry, jealous. Countless negative emotions pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. I held my head and collapsed to the ground. Just then, Huishen emerged. Beads of sweat dotted his forehead, his earlobes flushed slightly, his steps a little unsteady. He looked at me, a hint of panic flashing in his eyes, his earlobes turning even redder, like rubies dripping with blood. "You broke my fog illusion so quickly?" The sorceress cried out triumphantly. "Stinky monk, who did you see in my mesmerizing mist? Was it your former lover? Let me see what kind of beauty she is," she said with a seductive smile, approaching him. "If you don't like my appearance, I can transform into her to fulfill your desires. Wouldn't that be wonderful?" Huishen remained unmoved. He took a few steps forward, blocking her, and formed a dharma seal with his hands, pressing it down. The seal expanded several times in the air, and the sorceress, unable to dodge in time, was crushed beneath it. Screams of agony and curses followed, quickly turning into a pool of red powder. Having done all this, Huishen staggered, fell to the ground, and coughed up another mouthful of blood. "Can you get up?" he asked me. I nodded. He smiled bitterly. "But I can't move." Looking at his furrowed, handsome brows, I secretly clenched my fists. Just with him, I could regain everything I had once possessed. The sorceress was right. I wanted to have him all to myself. I leaned down, one hand touching Huishuan's suddenly stiff waist, the other hand resting on his back, moving upwards until it reached his shoulder, my fingertips touching the exposed skin of his neck. Sweat trickled down his neck, and I, possessed by a sudden impulse, kissed it. My lips were filled with warmth. Huixian probably thought I was going to help him up. He hadn't expected me to do something like this. His entire body stiffened. His body trembled slightly, and he called out softly, "Imperial Princess, don't." Imperial Princess? Yes, I was the most noble Imperial Princess of the Great Yan Dynasty. Why would I take advantage of someone in need to put a monk in a difficult position? Especially a monk who wholeheartedly wanted to help me find peace, and who had even planted a life-bound protection on me. I suddenly sobered up, smoothed my hair, and pretended nothing had happened, helping him to his feet and changing the subject. Let's go back and see. A high monk is indeed a high monk. The fierce battle in the backyard had ended. The evil spirits had been scattered, and only a group of monks remained, suffering from varying degrees of injury. The elder sent them all to the nearest clinic for treatment. Princess Consort Ning's fetus ultimately could not be saved. Prince Ning was furious that she had used such underhanded means to conceive, almost causing a catastrophe. He punished her with confinement, and her father and brother were stripped of their official positions. Of course, that's a story for another time. In the clinic, Huixian leaned against the headboard, chanting scriptures. The faint scent of sandalwood emanating from his body filled the small room, a calming and peaceful fragrance, gentle and restrained, making one feel involuntarily at ease. I perched on the windowsill, sniffing the air and saying wistfully, "Huixian, what's so good about wealth and glory anyway? Everyone scrambles to climb to the top. Those already at the top scramble even harder to protect their status and position. And I, as the imperial princess, lived in luxury, enjoyed every indulgence, and never had a single worry. Was it because I lived too comfortably before that heaven punished me with such an early death? The more I thought about it, the more I felt like a failure. I received the support of the people, but never offered them a single ounce of kindness. No wonder heaven didn't want me to live." Huixian stopped chanting, a subtle expression flickering across his usually serene face. "Actually, when I was a child, I once saw the imperial princess." "Oh! When?" I asked curiously. "During the Great Drought in Yuzhou. Yuzhou was my fiefdom. 8 years ago, during that great drought, I was only 9 years old. Hearing that the people were displaced and suffering, I begged my father to allow me to accompany him to provide relief. It was the imperial princess who personally gave me a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns. You saw that my leg was injured and had the accompanying physician treat it. That's how I was able to survive and reach Baohua Temple. At the time, I only hoped that I could educate the world so that there would be fewer children abandoned by their families like me. And I hoped that everyone in the world would be as kind-hearted as the imperial princess. That's why I decided to become a monk." He said solemnly, "Therefore, Imperial Princess Changle, you need not belittle yourself. The people who have received your kindness will remember you." I was overjoyed, my heart blooming with a small flower, but on the surface, I pretended to be nonchalant. Remember me, so what? The people who have received my kindness still can't deliver me to peace. Seeing his slight embarrassment, I smiled and asked, "When did you plant the life-bound protection on me? I heard that any injuries I should have suffered would be doubled on you." "I touched your jade hairpin. I planted it on the hairpin. It only lasts for 7 days. Don't worry about it." "Thank you," I said sincerely. "And about that day?" "I'm sorry." Huixian averted his gaze uncomfortably, revealing only the handsome lines of his profile. "Imperial Princess Changle, you needn't apologize. Just don't be so foolish as to save me next time. If I don't save you, you'll be gone with 1 slash. How will you save all living beings then?" He pursed his lips and smiled. "Life and death are predetermined." "Then I am your life," I said haughtily. He was momentarily speechless, his gaze calm and deep as the sea, extinguishing my stray thoughts. "Fortunately." I lowered my head and murmured. Fortunately, I did not make a grave mistake. Now, I could sit with him openly. "By the way, about that thing you mentioned last time." Huishuan's voice grew softer. "About finding a male ghost, is it still on? I heard there's a young general in the south." I interrupted him. "I was just teasing you earlier. I don't have any attachments. After we get back, you should study the scriptures more and find a way to deliver me to peace quickly. If there is a next life, hope to be born into a modestly wealthy family where I can live freely, go shopping whenever I want, and eat street food whenever I want. I want to have loving parents, a doting husband, and yes, I want to be beautiful and preferably intelligent. I chattered on, and Huixian listened quietly, finally lowering his eyes and joining his hands in prayer. The Imperial Princess Chengel is greatly blessed and benevolent. You will surely get your wish. A week later, the monks who weren't seriously injured returned to the temple. The physician adamantly refused to allow Huixian to leave, so he remained at the clinic to recuperate for a longer period. These were the happiest days of my existence as a ghost. The quiet candlelight illuminated the room, casting a soft glow on the monk and the spirit. It should have been an incongruous pairing, these two identities, but the monk's expression was gentle, and the ghost's laughter flowed freely. Once, I was so engrossed in reading a scripture that I didn't notice the candle. I nearly set the dormitory on fire. I don't know when it started, but he no longer referred to himself as this humble monk in my presence. He used I instead. He told me stories from Buddhist lore, and I recounted anecdotes from the palace and tales of my escapades when I would sneak out, causing chaos and commotion. As I spoke, I secretly observed his face. His skin was so smooth, his eyelashes so long, his nose so straight. I loved it all. When Huixian was feeling better, I pestered him to accompany me on a stroll outside. The stone steps of the small town were cool as cold water under the moonlight. We walked side by side, slowly, along the deserted street. There were no stars, just a solitary full moon hanging in the sky. I walked beside him, not saying a word. For a moment, I had the illusion that we were the only two beings in this vast expanse of heaven and earth. It would be wonderful to keep walking like this forever. Huixian was dressed lightly. I asked him, "Aren't you cold? Do you want to go back and get a coat?" Huixian shook his head. "I've always had a cool constitution. I'm not afraid of the cold, but I'm a little sensitive to heat." "Not cold? But your body was so hot that day." The words escaped my lips before I could stop them. I immediately sensed my mistake, and Huishuan's face suddenly flushed red. I quickly changed the subject, pointing ahead. "There's a swing set here." A tinge of regret colored my voice. "It's a pity I can't sit on it now." He followed my gaze. "The Imperial Princess seems to be fond of swings." I was surprised. "How did you know?" A smile touched the corners of his lips. 2 years ago, when I accompanied the abbot to give a lecture to the emperor, I saw the Imperial Princess on a swing. I nodded proudly. "Well, was I not beautiful, graceful, and radiant?" Huixian smiled. "You were." His smile was purer than moonlight. I was captivated. Huixian became uncomfortable under my gaze. He walked quickly to the swing set and grasped the ropes. "Imperial Princess, would you like to try sitting on it?" A faint golden light showered the swing. Huixian was using his Dharma power to control it. I carefully sat down, my palm feeling the rough texture of the wooden board. I hadn't cared much when I had possessed it, but after being unable to touch physical objects for so long, this feeling of regaining something lost was incredibly joyful. Huixian stood behind me, gently pushing the swing. My hair lifted in the night breeze, and my eyes crinkled in a smile. "Huixian, swing me higher." He increased the force slightly, and I almost fell off. Huixian caught me. He held my waist, his fingers long and warm. I suddenly felt shy, my heart feeling like it was being gently squeezed. I leaned closer to him, whispering his name, Huixian. He suddenly released me, stepping back several paces, his entire body tense. His eyes were dark, so dark that I couldn't discern his emotions. I suddenly had a feeling, it seemed like he wanted to kiss me. I chuckled. "Why are you so nervous?" "Oh, it's nothing," I heard Huixian breathe a sigh of relief. After Huishuan's wounds had completely healed, I returned to the temple with him. He didn't walk quickly, and by evening, we were still less than halfway there. It suddenly started to rain heavily. We finally found a dilapidated temple to take shelter in. The rain soaked Huishuan's monk's robe, clinging tightly to his body. Beneath the robe, the lines of a slender physique were faintly visible. Unwiped raindrops trickled down his throat. The scene was strangely familiar, and I unconsciously swallowed. There was some dry firewood in the corner. Huixian started a fire and sat beside it to wait for his clothes to dry. I kindly reminded him, "You should take off your clothes and dry them by the fire." "I promise I won't peek." Huishuan's face reddened again. "They'll dry soon." "It's fine." He lowered his eyelids, his eyelashes long. I loved them. The dry firewood crackled and popped. He watched the flames for a while, then suddenly spoke, his voice slow and measured. I once made a vow to travel west to the Tianzhu, India, to retrieve several volumes of true scriptures, to resolve the hundreds of grievances of the world, and to eliminate the unwarranted disasters of the people. Traveling westward, I heard there are boundless deserts and fertile oases, ferocious and terrifying beasts, and also remarkably intelligent birds. Each small western region kingdom along the way has its own unique customs and cultures. Huishuan's eyes were as clear as ever, and now they deeply reflected only my face. His voice grew increasingly melancholic towards the end. If, by then, I still haven't found a way to deliver you to peace, then I'll go west with you. I interrupted him happily. Tianzhu. I hadn't been there yet. It would be perfect to travel there with Huishen. Huishen shook his head. The journey to Tianzhu is long and arduous, fraught with danger, Imperial Princess. I don't care. I want to go. Wherever you go, I'll go. I interrupted him again, handing him the white jade hairpin. Here, take this as a token. We agreed to go to the western regions together. You can't go back on your word. I really loved him, and I wanted to give him everything. This white jade hairpin, perhaps of extraordinary origin, emitted a faint spiritual light. It was also the only physical object I could touch, besides Huishen. My hand remained outstretched, but his gaze was fixed, staring intently at my wrist. On the inside of my wrist, since the chaos at Princess Consort Ning's ancestral home, a black lotus flower had appeared. This is the mark of an evil spirit. Once it latches onto you, it will not rest until death. Why didn't you tell me before, Imperial Princess? He was somewhat annoyed. Yes, why hadn't I said anything? Was it because he was still recovering from his injuries and I didn't want to worry him? No, I shook my head inwardly. It couldn't possibly be that. I stammered, I didn't know what it was. In a moment of urgency, he grabbed my hand. Come back with me. I'll beg the abbot to remove it for you. It seems to be too late, I said awkwardly, pointing to the window behind him. The evil spirit is here. The evil spirit first unleashed a gust of wind, knocking Huishen to the ground. Then, he sniffed the air dramatically, taking several deep breaths. Little beauty, be good. Before I devour you, let's have some fun. He threw a joyful curse seal at me. A strange heat surged from my abdomen, causing the blood throughout my body to boil. I saw the demonic monk open his mouth in a sinister laugh, his body reeking of evil as he lunged at me. It was bad. Because of the effect of the curse seal, his hideous, feigned appearance gradually began to become handsome. And more like Huishen. Huishen looked at me mockingly. Don't try to hide. This joyful curse cannot be broken. Unless you submit to me, you will suffer the torment of a burning heart for 7 days. He opened his arms. Little beauty, come here. This was all an illusion. I struggled to get up, but my body was limp and weak and I fell towards him. The real Huishen caught me. His face was ashen. He actually expended his lifespan to use the wrathful Vidra method to slay the demonic monk with a single blow. Seeing the danger eliminated, I breathed a sigh of relief, but my inner turmoil intensified. Huishen, I'm so hot. Help me. I couldn't help but rub against his body. Huishen froze like a wooden post. My face gently brushed against his moon-white monk's robe, and I let out a contented sigh. Huishuan's face, from his ears to his neck, suddenly turned red. Changle Imperial Princess. Call me Changle. I mumbled, dissatisfiedly. He grasped my restless hands, his ink-black eyes gazing at me intently. Changle. His voice was hoarse, the drawn-out tone restrained and enduring, his hands gripping my shoulders, surprisingly hot even through the monk's robe. Huishen, I bit my lip and asked, will you regret this in the future? He pressed his lips together tightly. No regrets. His 2 words made my heart both soft and achy, but I didn't overlook the flicker of confusion in his eyes. Enough, you're hurting me. His entire body stiffened, his face even more flushed. I mean, your prayer beads are pressing against my chest, I said, looking at him aggrievedly. I am not your responsibility, nor am I your shackle, Huishen. If there is no future, then there should be no beginning. Maintaining the last of my rationality, I pushed him away and fled. Suddenly leaving that warm scent of sandalwood, I felt a desolate urge to weep. The first person to find me was not Huixian, but someone completely unexpected. The aged, faltering abbot looked compassionately at the direction where I was hiding in the dilapidated cave and dispelled the evil curse power for me as I trembled with fear. He said to me, "Imperial Princess Changel, although I cannot see you, I can sense your presence here. You and Huixian have a destined karmic connection from a previous life." A fleeting glimpse in his youth planted a seed, which, as his Buddhist practice deepened, unknowingly grew into his inner demon. Therefore, you are not a lingering spirit in this world. You are, in fact, his inner demon. I'm not a ghost. I'm his inner demon. No wonder only he could see me, touch me. I had always believed it was only my one-sided affection, but I never realized that in the corners I couldn't see, day after day, quietly, he was thinking of me. From the kindness of saving him in his youth, to the difficult and obscure path of cultivation, in his hidden thoughts that he dared not bring to light, there was always a small inner demon. Finally, at the moment of my death, the inner demon blossomed and separated from his consciousness, acquiring all of the Imperial Princess Changel's memories. I had actually fooled everyone, including myself, into truly believing that I was the Imperial Princess Changel. The abbot said slowly last night, "I glimpsed a sliver of destiny. The soul of your true self will soon re-enter the cycle of reincarnation. Unless Huixian abandons his attachment, you will never dissipate." A possibility occurred to me, and I asked hopefully, "Does that mean, as long as he keeps thinking of me, I can always be with him?" The abbot sighed. "But it also means that Huixian will be trapped in karmic obstacles for the rest of his life. The golden cicada dharma body he painstakingly cultivated over several lifetimes will be destroyed. After this life, he will not enter reincarnation, but will dissipate into smoke, with no further existence. But if he can successfully overcome this tribulation, he may attain enlightenment." Amit Ba. I have said all I can. How to choose, Imperial Princess, is up to you. I was silent for a long while, before finally making up my mind. "Abbot, although monks do not lie, could you help me put on a show?" The abbot agreed and went with me to see Huixian. I pretended nothing had happened and said to him excitedly, "The abbot has found a way. With a little preparation, he can perform the ceremony to deliver me to peace in a few days." Huixian was slightly stunned, a faint smile appearing at the corners of his lips. "Congratulations, Imperial Princess." The abbot left us alone. I hurriedly explained to him, "Master Huixian, I have been rather frivolous before, because I coveted your golden cicada boy body and wanted to be revived. I have now seen the light. I am already a deceased person, and it is best to follow the will of heaven. I hope you will not hold a grudge." Huixian suddenly interrupted me, his eyes reddened as he looked at me. I had never seen him display such a vulnerable expression. "Imperial Princess, please don't go. Please?" My heart ached so much I could hardly breathe. Dissipate into smoke, with no further existence. If I were not just his inner demon. If it were not just a fleeting moment of pleasure. I dug my fingernails into my palm, trying to appear calm. I feigned innocence and asked him, "Why not go? I finally have the chance to re-enter the cycle of reincarnation. If I can't be a lady from a modest family in my next life, I'd rather go to the neighboring Mu Emperor's kingdom and find 7 or 8 husbands to live a life of debauchery. But I love you." His lips moved, and from their shape, I could see what he wanted to say, but in the end, he didn't utter the words. "I love you too," I said in my heart. We both, under the guise of doing what was best for the other, severed this tender and lingering affection. It was for the best. On the day of our parting, the abbot held a grand ceremony for me. As the Sanskrit chants resounded, my figure gradually became transparent. I smiled at Huixian from the air. "Master Huixian, may you increase in both blessings and wisdom, and may all your wishes be fulfilled." He stared at me blankly, silently turning his prayer beads, not saying a word. In the instant I pretended to disappear, I saw a tear silently fall from the corner of his reddened eye. It was quickly dried by the breeze, leaving no trace. To ensure Huixian believed I had entered reincarnation, I hid myself, staying far away from him. I watched the sunrise from the peak of Mount Tai and the sunset by the sandy beach of Cheonghai. I encountered battling swordsmen and young, innocent scholars. When I encountered evil spirits, I quickly fled. When I encountered those with good natures, I would approach and chat with them. A gentle scholar hesitantly asked me if I wanted to stay and keep him company. I shook my head, advising him to study hard, since realizing the obsession of becoming a top scholar was extremely difficult. In the first few years, I could still wander freely during the day. By the 5th year, I began to fear the sunlight and could only appear at night. I knew that as I grew weaker, it meant Huishuan's attachment was gradually fading. I could occasionally hear news of Huixian from the casual conversations of passing travelers. I heard that after attending a deliverance ceremony, he fell seriously ill. After recovering, he stayed in the scripture library, tirelessly copying scriptures for 49 days and nights without leaving. Later, he traveled west alone, journeying day and night, enduring hardships, and finally, after 3 years, he returned with 10 volumes of true scriptures. He began to give lectures, and not only monks, but even ordinary people listened with rapt attention. He also began to practice compassion and charity, becoming a living bodhisattva in the hearts of countless people, relieving suffering and hardship. He was now truly Master Huixian. I lowered my head, a hint of sadness still lingering in my heart, but more than that, I felt a sense of pride, a shared glory. The 8th year, the 9th year. Gradually, starting from my hands, then my feet, I became transparent. I didn't have much time left. I went to see the girl who was the reincarnation of the imperial Princess Changel. She was beautiful, intelligent, had loving parents, and a childhood sweetheart who would turn into a puddle of water whenever he looked at her. She could live freely, go shopping with her close friends whenever she wanted, and whatever snacks she craved, her sweetheart would eagerly bring them to her. However, she didn't look like the imperial Princess Changel. On her 15th birthday, her family held a lively coming-of-age ceremony. Lanterns illuminated the spacious courtyard. Many guests gathered, and amidst the laughter, toasts, and celebrations, a servant rushed in to announce that Master Huixian had come to offer his congratulations. I quickly hid myself to the side. Seeing the renowned high monk, the guests stopped their drinking and stood respectfully to greet him. Huixian had come alone, wearing the same moon-white monk's robe I had seen him in when we first met. Although his appearance showed some signs of wear and tear from his travels, his eyes and brows were as gentle and handsome as ever. I stared at him, completely unaware that my eyes were filled with tears. This humble monk has a destined connection with this young lady. Today, I have come to present this gift to her. In his palm lay a white jade hairpin. The girl curiously took the hairpin, smiling sweetly at him. "It's so beautiful. Thank you, Master Huixian." She then gave a proud, teasing glance to her sweetheart in the crowd. The young man shook his head affectionately. A faint smile touched the corners of Huishuan's lips. He lowered his eyes, joined his hands in a gesture of respect, and said, "May the young lady have blessings at all times and peace throughout the seasons." All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew and like lightning. They should be contemplated thus. He finally left at peace. My entire body gradually became transparent, finally transforming into a sky full of stars. Goodbye, Huixian. No, never again, Huixian. I love you.